Apple abandoned its EV dreams, or did they? We'll have the 411 for you on that, as well as a special interview with three-time Super Bowl champion Lonie Paxton. You don't want to miss it. Bang!
That's it, baby. Back right at the CBOE, huh, John?
Back here at SuperBowl Global Markets, and they've been very active in the pits today, Pete. So, folks, don't be scared if you hear some yelling and screaming in the background. They're trading the S&P 500. It's only the biggest index in the world, and they're doing some big trades today. So that's always fun. You know who he is. He's Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian, and we will indeed, at the end of this look at the stocks, we will have a special interview with Lonie Paxton, a guy who played at the same college that Pete used as a springboard for his world championship run with the Sacramento Surge, right, Pete?
That's right. Yeah, I'll tell you, Hornet Stadium, this guy was fortunate enough to come from Southern Cal to go up to NoCal, as they call it, up there in Sacramento, the capital. And great stadium, John. It was a great stadium for us. It got even better for him because they did a little bit of revamping and all the rest of it, but absolutely beautiful and killer. You got to love it. Oh, by the way, I just want to drop one thing. The Minnesota Timberwolves are for real.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah, we all had doubts. Anybody that's seen Anthony Edwards play, Pete, doesn't have doubts. Or Rudy Gobert, as you already had told us as well.
Although, how about this? Not only did they smoke him, but Rudy's back here in Minnesota. His wife's giving birth, for crying out loud. So, I mean, they're going out there. They don't even have the full complement of players and went out there and whooped them again. It's amazing, John. Those guys they're on track for something big.
Oh, yes, they are. They are just a phenomenal team, not just one player. They're a team because if Ant happens to have an off night, somebody else picks up the slack. It's amazing. All right, folks. Well, you know we start off with the macro minutes. We're going to get right into it with that. Wall Street extends gains as rate cut hopes linger. But should they be lingering, Pete? That's my question.
Well, I don't know if they should be lingering based upon what we're still facing right now in terms of inflation. So I don't know, John. It's going to be interesting. They're going to have to tap dance around this whole thing. I mean, you and I have been talking about this. It's been about the Fed. It's been about the no longer are we worried about hikes, but when are we going to start to see any cuts, right? I mean, that's part of this whole thing. Earnings has been absolutely as market moving as I've seen it. Absolutely incredible. Going back to last week with Apple, coming into this week, it just continues, John, and there's been a lot of strength in the markets. Doesn't mean that'll continue, but 80% so far are beating the numbers.
Yeah, it is a pretty phenomenal earnings season, really, Pete. Yeah. But not every reaction is positive to good earnings, and I think we'll have an example of that today. Yeah. Let's dive into fantastic futures.
Okay.
I had to launch him. Well, fantastic futures today, Pete. It's going to go right back to your favorite, cocoa, because it's only up 14% today. But you know what? When you make a move of $3,000, because it was $11,800 and now it's $8,800, you're going to see some pretty big rebounds from time to time. And when you see it in futures, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, futures just have a whole different way of moving sometimes. I'm looking at copper, John. It was $370 in December. It was $380 in March. Now it's $464 a pound. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of there still is something to be said about the economy as a read-through through copper because of all the things that copper is a part of. But I think it's very, very important to just keep your eye on that. Know that it's been moving. It continues to move. And I think it's the highest level since December of 21. So it's definitely moving to the upside in a big way.
Yeah, well, that's our fantastic futures, folks. Now we're going to dive into the stocks. And first one I saw, Pete, was Rivian. And the rumors have it that there's a partnership coming together between the EV maker and Apple. Would that be a good thing? Maybe, but aren't they really just trucks and RVs, Pete? That doesn't really seem like the Apple audience to me. I would have picked something even more like Lucid, quite frankly. But Apple's had some struggles with both EV and then AI now, and they're hoping that their new chips are going to help. But this news was quickly digested and then gave the market indigestion because the Rivian rally vanished like that.
Yeah, I'd say they spit it out pretty quickly, John. Not good. And when you look at the numbers for Rivian, absolutely terrible. I mean, they lose money. They continue to lose money. Yes, their revenue was up, but okay, your revenue doubled, but you're losing money. I think when you look at that, you can understand why Rivian, which had a nice big spike to the upside early, started to tail off and started to get spit out by a lot of folks. I didn't fall for that one. I still think that Apple is a quality company and everything else. And maybe they get into the EV space sometime soon, maybe. But I'm not sure if it's Rivian. And if it is, they can probably make it work. But I just don't see right now, based on what Rivian's put out there, especially this earnings and the previous earnings, I just don't see it, John. They are in trouble, in my opinion. So that's not one of those where I think you'd want to jump into bed with them right now if you're Apple.
No, I agree. And I'm not saying that Lucid's in better financial position either. I just think that it's kind of a cool looking car versus a truck or an RV. That's really my thing, Pete. All right, Disney. Disney came out with earnings higher than expected Q2 earnings. EPS, that was better than expected. Sales, revenue, better than expected. But they're going to crack down on password sharing, Pete. And I thought this was interesting, too, because we all knew Netflix was competition for the videos that they put up on the site. But now Netflix is their competition also for the ads on these streamers, because all the streamers are doing ad-supported stuff for people that don't want to pay the full price for the streamer. So that's another way that Netflix is eating into Disney's profitability.
Right. And Disney did have their earnings were better. I'll tell you what, the volume today, the turnover today is absolutely extraordinary, John. Last I looked, it was down about 7%. It could be different now, but it certainly has been getting beat up today, especially when you look at what you were talking about. The only positives out there, potentially out there, and it's something Netflix dealt with as well, is the shared passwords, right? I mean, that's one of those things that Netflix took forever to actually start to move on to that. At least Disney's starting to attack that. At least Disney with Iger has turned the corner to some degree, but they're not all the way around yet, John. They still have some issues. I think this actually makes sense that Disney is down a little bit today. The revenue was a little, when you look at the earnings, the revenue a little bit mixed. I think this is one of those where you don't have to jump in there. I think you can be patient with Disney as a stock right now if you're looking for something that's going to be a second half player. Maybe it is, but you don't have to get in there right now. I think there's time.
It basically opened down hard, Pete, down $8 or $9. And right now it's down $12.
Ooh.
So it's a pretty ugly day for the House of Mouse.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Datadog, or D-Dog, as Pete likes to call it. Datadog reported strong Q1 earnings, beating expectations. They beat on EPS, earnings per share, as well as revenue. And they gave optimistic guidance, Pete. So that's why the stock is moving pretty well on a day when some stocks, like we just said about Disney, aren't doing so well.
Well, when you look at Datadog, John, they've got a lot of things that were positives. They had some negatives as well. I mean, one of the negatives that I'd throw out there is they have incredible growth. We all know that. A lot of these companies have had great growth, but it's starting to slow to some degree.
Yep.
So the gross margins a little bit higher. The guide was in line. They gave you both sides. And I think the interpretation of this is, okay, it's been a powerhouse. It's been a really an amazing company that's done a lot of things right. But it is starting to slow. It's inevitable. Those things just seem to happen over time. You can't always just have that incredible growth forever. And it looks like to me the Datadog right now, that's the one negative, and probably if somebody's looking for a negative right now on the stock and why they'd be selling rather than buying, it would probably be that factor, the fact that growth has slowed to some degree.
Oh, and Pete's exactly right, folks. It's why, even though they had these positive EPS, revenue, and good guidance, it wasn't as good as the street was looking for. So you always have to know what the street is looking for. So somebody could just tell you and, say, I think they're going to have this for earnings. And if they exceed that, great. But if the rest of the analysts are saying, well, we were looking way out here and these guys missed by a lot, that's why the stock's down 11%. Yeah. Because you can have great earnings, again, revenue and guidance. But if all three of those going forward don't exceed expectations, people are going to hit the exits. And right now, Pete, I think it's pretty close to its 52, well, not 52-week low, but the year's low. And here we are in the 5th month of the year. So that's a pretty big drop.
Yep. Significant for sure. Absolutely.
All right. What about Builder, Pete? BLDR. These guys said a weakening multifamily market and higher mortgage rates are definitely driving affordability challenges that are making it hard for them to deliver on the earnings front. That's what they said on the earnings call. And that's why, with net income down almost 23%, this is one of those situations, Pete, where it's just getting worse and worse for BLDR.
Yeah, last I looked, it was down close to 17%. It looks like, based on that chart, looks a little worse than that. It's gotten even beat up even more. The gross profits, that was decreasing. The net income, you mentioned that's decreasing. The earnings at 210 from a year ago at 240, that's clearly decreasing. So when you look at this, and you brought it up, I think the most important factor is, well, they're having to deal with higher rates. That's certainly something. So there's a combination of things that are not making it very easy for them right now. I don't think you got to chase it. We need to see those rates. And I think that I'd be staring at the rates if I were to look at this company. And I'd say, look, if Powell at some point does cut, that quarter point cut or whatever it might be, I think that would be a time for me to take a look over at Builder and say, you know what, where are you? And let's maybe take a look. But until then, I'd stay away.
Yeah, same thing with Deckers. And I think Deckers is a stronger player, Pete. Mm-hmm. So that's DECK, by the way, folks. I don't own either, but I just wanted to throw that in there. Yeah. Well, now we're going to head over for that interview that we did with Lonie Paxton. Again, 3-time Super Bowl champ. He was with the Tom Brady roast backstage on Sunday, and we know you guys are going to love seeing this interview. So stay tuned right now. That's just something Lonie will have to put up with. Hey, Lonie,
what's
great
up, fellas?
to see you, man.
You too.
Folks, that is Lonie Paxton. We are lucky to have Lonie on the show today, and Lonie is a friend. He and I have done a bunch of shows together around the country, not so much around the world yet, but I got to get to some of the cool places that Lonie gets to go. But we're going to let you guys in on a little thing that Pete and Lonie have a lot in common, because Lonie was a long snapper in the NFL. I'll let Pete cover the part about college and so forth, but the guy's got 3 Super Bowl rings, folks.
Damn.
And he was at the Brady roast the other night. That's our friend, Lonie Paxton. And he played at the same stadium, I think. Pete, is that the same stadium you played in, the Hornet Stadium?
Yep, Hornet Stadium. Lonnie was one of the, I'll tell you what, he wasn't just a long snapper either. The son of a gun was like, literally, he got every accolade you could get as a freshman all the way through his senior year as an offensive lineman and long snapper for Sac State, which is killer. I'll tell you what, a lot of people talk negatively about Sacramento, man, but Lonnie, I loved it. My stay there was great. The partying was great. It was all a good time. And it didn't hurt that we won the World Bowl, and that's nothing compared to the 3 Super Bowls you got, but it was great for me because it was at the very end of my career and all. And so it was a lot of fun. But Lonie played with the Patriots. He played with the Broncos. By the way, I'm not going to bring up that the Timberwolves just smoked Denver for the second time. I'm not going to get into that, but you played with the Broncos as well. But you got to tell us a lot about a lot of different things. But the thing I'd like to focus on for me anyway is the Thrive. I just find this whole thing really incredibly interesting. We were talking about it, but tell us about it. Tell us all about it. Everything. What got you there, and where are you right now, and when are we going to be able to see it? All of that.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. Sacramento was really the root of everything. Coming from Southern California, there's a lot of random things going on around you that kind of steer you away from sports. And, I was able to find the most passionate people I ever found in Sacramento about sports. So that gave me my foundation to then go to the NFL and have a great career and really just get involved in a lot of things, where it be charitable or, branding or outside, like alternative assets and opportunities around startups. And, I took a role at GoPro right after football. And that gave me a little taste on filmmaking, production, storytelling, marketing, really built a global roster, so to speak, of athletes and brands and players I worked with. And, during COVID, they cut about 500 of us the same day. So we were all kind of scrambling, looking for what's next. And a guy came to me from Australia who was also doing the same. He was our head of sales, and he was a season ticket holder at this team in Australia called St. Kilda Saints, and they're an Aussie rules football team. And one of their most famous players lost his career due to head injury. And he said, "Hey, he's a creative. I think you should talk to him. He's got this story he wants to tell. He doesn't know where to take it." So he brought it to me, and we all know the bad concussion stories. I mean, you've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. I've lost about a half dozen of my friends over the last couple of years to whether it be addiction, suicide, or anywhere in between. And I played with Junior, and it's a soft spot in my heart for guys and families that go through that, especially military members. And so when I heard his story, it was really positive. It was like how your brain can recover and you can have hope at the end of the tunnel. And it's not shoot yourself in the chest and donate it to science. It's not go into this spiral of addiction and losing all your money, but you can come out of this thing almost better than you got into it. And so that sent us down a path to find a team of a director, Bill McCullough, who's got 11 Emmy Awards, a fantastic production company called The Workshop out of Philadelphia that does all these productions, and then kind of built the team around it of people telling that story, and also story, athletes who need their story told in this herd. And so we've been on this journey for the last couple of years. Just got back from a trip in Canada and Australia and Malibu, talking to doctors and athletes. And we're really excited about it because we really want to shift the narrative that, your brain can't be fixed. You walk with a limp, your knee hurts. You got a sling on, your shoulder hurts. You got a head injury, you can't see it. People just think you're crazy or you're fighting inside. And we want to change that narrative, give people some hope.
Wow, God, you're doing God's work with that, Lonie. Yeah. So thank you. And I can't wait to see the film. Yeah. I really can't. I think that's going to be phenomenal.
It is.
And Pete, people love hearing Lonie talk at these various, there's an event I'll be speaking at here in Chicago in 2 days, Lonie. And you've been at many of those with the Players Impact. So if you wouldn't mind just a little bit, maybe tell us a bit about the Players Impact TPI, because, you're more or less one of the biggest proponents and in-demand speakers for that particular group.
Well, I enjoy it, and I appreciate all your help, at these events as well, because people love hearing from you and your perspective on things. And, I'm not a financial genius by any means. And so I look to you guys for tips and kind of tricks of the trade. But, my perspective and my story is a little different. I've had some of my investments go the opposite way, and it was all led through passion. I believed you because you believed in your product or your idea, and I lead with my heart more with my brain sometimes. And so, I need some guardrails. And when I was able to meet Tracy DeForge at a couple events, and she talked about the Players Impact, which she's been building for almost 10 years now, and how this helps athletes kind of stay on the rails, and it gives these alternative asset deals scorecards. You have these really cool networking events where you can meet everybody and listen to other athletes going through the same things who have the same questions, but also be in the same room with business leaders, high net worth individuals, family offices, see new deals, talk about your deals. And, it's really a community of like-minded individuals looking for that male, female, global athletes. And what I really love about it is that, some of these investments, thank God, I was able to bounce back from, but there's some people out there who might put $100,000 down or $200,000 down. And if that doesn't work, that's game changing for them. They might go into bankruptcy and fail really big. But what the Players Impact does is really democratize the opportunity. So everyone comes in under an SPV, they get to play together. I can invest alongside a women's Olympic athlete, and they can invest alongside a family office, billionaire, and still play at the same level, at the same asset class, and learn along the way. And not, if there's a miss, we did it together, but we did it in small chunks. And if there's a win, we go back to the drawing board. What do we do right? And let's repeat that and scale it. So I think it's a great opportunity for me to give back to athletes and, help them learn what, some of the failures I've had along the way, and be a voice for them as they transition, into the next stage of their lives.
I'll tell you what, I'm amazingly impressed. I really am. I mean, it's outstanding, and it's opportunity, as you mentioned. I know we're going to go, but real quick, I got to ask you, how did you get to be able to marry a Patriots cheerleader? I mean, honestly, what? Yeah.
Well,
we could never date those cheerleaders. We
couldn't date them either. That's a whole other story. But I was a lineman by trade, and I played offensive line. I was on the field for 60, 70 plays. I get to the league, they got me long snapping for 10 or 12 plays a game, and they put me over by the cheerleaders every single game. So what am I supposed to do? And then we just developed this bond, and it worked out. We got 4 beautiful kids, and it's crazy how life works. And she's from Boston, so now, not only am I a champion there, but I married into Boston, so it'll be a part of me forever.
That's awesome.
That is. And folks, I'm just going to say, on top of him being a fabulous guy and doing all this great work, when you pool these professional athletes and they can participate in the same things that Tom Brady and Mahomes can participate in, but they might not have the 20 million that those guys can throw at a vitamin water or whatever it might be. Lonie and all the folks at the Players Impact can come in with whatever size chunks. Maybe it's 5,000, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100,000. But that SPV he spoke of is special purpose vehicle, and he comes in with those guys, and they all own whatever percentage piece when they do that, and it really does democratize it. So I'd encourage all of you to check out TPI, and of course Lonie's movie Thrive. When that thing hits, we'll be talking about it for sure. But Lonie Paxton, thank you very much for coming on with us today.
Really
Thank you, guys. We'll do this again.
Well, fabulous interview with Lonie there, Pete. And it's so cool that you two played in the same city. He was, of course, the Sacramento. What are they, Pete?
I think they're the Hornets. Yeah.
Are they the Hornets? All right.
So. Yeah.
He played for the Hornets. You played for the World League Sacramento Surge.
The Surge.
And I think every week somebody sends Pete a card to sign one of those Sacramento Surge playing cards.
I got a bunch of them right in this drawer here, John. I sign them and send them, and every once in a while, somebody will just send it to me and say, "Hey, I just wanted you to have this in case you didn't." And I'm like, "All right, it's all good."
Well, again, thank you, Lonie Paxton. Make sure you check out TPI, folks, the Players Impact, as well as Thrive, and we'll post up a link to Lonie in case any of you want to follow him on social media and so forth. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.